All right, let's dive into a really fascinating debate that gets right to the heart of how we learn things about our world. It's all about the best way to do research. Should you be a detached, totally objective observer standing on the sidelines? Or should you roll up your sleeves and get right in there with the people you're studying?
I mean, this is the big question, right? You can picture it. On one side, you've got the classic scientist, maybe in a lab coat, controlling every single variable, trying to stay separate from it all. But on the other side, you might have someone who's more like a community organizer, working side by side with people to tackle real problems. They're both looking for answers, but their approaches couldn't be more different.
And that brings us to the main character in our story today, Participatory Action Research, or PAR for short. Now, this is not your standard research model. The absolute key word here is collaborate. Instead of a researcher studying a community from the outside looking in, PAR is all about working with that community. The end goal isn't just to publish a paper that sits on a shelf, it's to actually create real, tangible change.
So, to really get why PAIR is so different, we first have to understand the traditional way of thinking, the one that's been dominant in science for a very long time. And that's the case for objectivity.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. For a long time, the gold standard in science has been this idea that you have to be distant. You have to be objective. The researcher needs to be in control of the situation to make sure the results are pure. From that point of view, PR just looks kind of messy. The skeptics ask, how can you possibly be unbiased if you're involved, if you're part of the action? And they've got another big question. If you find a solution that works for one very specific neighborhood, how on earth can you say that solution will work everywhere else? These are tough questions, and they're the reason PR has had a hard time getting full acceptance in some academic circles.
But that is only one side of the debate. On the other side, you've got a whole group of researchers who believe that research has a much bigger purpose than just watching and recording. For them, it's actually a call for justice.
And PAR has some pretty powerful friends in its corner. You've got researchers from what are called interpretivist traditions. For them, knowledge isn't some static thing you just find, it's something we all build together through our shared experiences. So PAR fits right in. Then you have the critical and feminist traditions, and they take it a step further. They argue that research absolutely should be a tool for empowering people and fighting for social justice. For them, PAR isn't just a method, it's the right thing to do. And of course, you've got the pragmatists. They're the show me the results crowd. Their philosophy is pretty simple. If it works and it solves a real problem in the real world, then it's good research, period.
And this slide, wow, it just lays the whole conflict out so clearly. I mean, just look at the difference. The traditional researcher is supposed to be an objective observer, looking for universal truths that apply everywhere. Their work is seen as valid because it's rigorous and controlled. But with PAR, the researcher is a collaborative facilitator. Their goal is social transformation. And the research is considered valid not because it was done in a sterile lab, but because it had a real positive impact on people's lives. We're talking about two completely different ways of seeing the world.
So, with a divide this deep, how could these two worlds ever possibly meet? Well, the answer isn't about one side winning the argument. It's about a complete change in perspective, what you might call a mind shift.
A researcher named R. Miller actually broke this down into two really key steps. First, the researcher has to let go of this need to be in complete control, to be the only expert in the room. Instead, they become a partner, recognizing that the community members they're working with have their own kind of expertise that's just as valuable. And second, they have to move away from this idea of detached knowing. In this new way of thinking, real understanding doesn't come from watching through a window. It comes from building real relationships, from engaging with people, human to human.
And this quote just nails it. Choosing to do PAR isn't like picking a different tool out of your toolbox. It's a fundamental change. It's a personal and professional transformation that changes how you see the world, how you see your own role in it, and what you believe the whole point of creating knowledge really is.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question. So what's next? What does the future of knowledge look like? As more and more people wrestle with this idea, what's it going to take for PAR to become more mainstream?
Well, it seems the path forward really relies on three main things. First up, results. The more that PAR projects can point to real, meaningful, positive change in communities, the harder it'll be for anyone to ignore its power. Second, something called methodological pluralism, which is really just a fancy way of saying we need to accept that you need different tools for different jobs. Maybe objective observation is perfect for studying particle physics, but collaborative action is what you need to improve public health. And finally, and maybe this is the most important one,
a growing awareness that the best, most powerful knowledge is the kind we create together.
And that, right there, is really the big idea to take away from all of this. It's a challenge to think beyond the idea of the lone genius researcher and to start thinking about the power of the collective. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, the true purpose of research isn't just to understand the world as it is, but to work together to make it better.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. Forget the academic arguments for a second and just imagine all the big problems we face, climate change, inequality, you name it. What could we solve if we all had that mind shift? If we decided that from now on, building knowledge is something we always do together?